Hello and welcome to the Backfield, the running back analysis podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about some of your favorite plays here for this week, and another one of those weird weeks for running backs. And as I'm looking forward, all I'm doing is just crossing my fingers and hoping that all of my running backs are still standing at the end of this week. I was obviously not alone in the Devontae Freeman, Kendrick West duo last week everywhere, but unfortunate situations. Freeman got off to a great start, got injured. When you see Spencer Ware scoring all the touchdowns you thought your guy was going to get, I mean, that's just not a good ending to the week. But we'll start off here at the top. You got Mark Ingram against Houston. Vegas total for the Saints pretty low, just 22.25 points. But Ingram's been a big part of this attack recently. And like you mentioned here, if Devonta Freeman plays, he's a better cash game option. Yeah. Obviously, with the concussion protocol and everything. He has a higher floor. I mean, even getting a concussion in the first quarter, he still got 4 points. So that's a better floor than you're going to get from some guys. But Mark Ingram here, the Houston defense has been much better, but more so against the pass than the run. So I'm still a big fan of Mark Ingram here this week.
Yeah, I mean, Football Outsiders has them ranked as the 19th worst defense. And, looking at them and defending running backs in the passing game, they rank 24th. And I think Ingram's been actually very solid in working in the passing game. He's got 40 catches this season. And, if we're looking backs for who consistently hit value, he's up there with Devonta Freeman for a guy who's hit 2 times value, this season. So I think that's kind of a surprising statistic that we kind of forget with Ingram. Even though we've seen Breeze a couple times steal some touchdowns, Kyrie Robinson, when he was healthy, steal some touchdowns. So, I mean, this guy consistently has been getting it done. Just, he hasn't hit that upside as much as we wanted this season, but still, he's been stellar.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you don't imagine that Drew Brees is going to have a lot of time to sit back there and throw the ball, so probably going to be relying more on the running game this week. Next up, TJ Yeldon against San Diego. I'm not going to say the same thing I say every week. We'll just say that San Diego's not a good defense. Last week, we saw pretty much everyone who the Chiefs wanted to get involved have success against this defense. The offense is so bad now, too, with all the injuries to the offensive line, all the weapons injured. They're not expected to score a lot of points. They probably won't score a lot of points, which is even better for a guy like TJ Yeldon, assuming the Jags are going to have the lead. And it's still weird seeing the fact that, you see the Jaguars here, I mean, even close spreads favored. Like, these are the weird things with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, they got a nice Vegas total of 25 there. They're favorites. And, looking at Yeldon, he's been a guy he's carried the low 20-plus times a couple times this season, but it's all just dependent on game flow. And you're looking at this week, it's looking like the perfect matchup. Hopefully he can stay healthy because that's been the thing. But, I mean, Yeldon, just 2 touchdowns this season, but San Diego has allowed the second most rushing touchdowns. I mean, the guy's salary is just unreal for this week. You're looking at one of the better value plays, and he's my elite guy.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. Next up, Javorius, Buck Allen, whatever you want to call him here, facing off against Cleveland, who is the worst run defense in football. Obviously, now Joe Flacco, Justin Forsett, Steve Smith. You feel bad for anyone else that steps on the field for the Ravens because it has just not been a good omen for them with all the injuries. But obviously, he's going to be the biggest benefactor because now you've got Matt Schaub under center, really no one to throw to. Brashad Perryman, obviously, now not even going to play. Maybe they say never going to play again and hasn't even played. I mean, it's just a bad situation for them. So really the only guy that anyone's worth targeting on this team has got to be Buck Allen. And you got to imagine this guy's going to get fed this week. He's going to see easily 20-plus touches this week.
Yeah, I mean, you look at when Forsett went down, he saw 27 touches after that, and he accumulated 16.5 DK points without getting a touchdown against a pretty good Rams defense. So, I mean, you're looking at this week, I mean, against Cleveland, ranked as 29th rush defense, and they're allowing 4.6 yards per carry to opposing backs. And, I mean, you're just looking at all the value plays this week, just in great spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And then next up, a guy who's not a great value, but a very talented team. Very low team total in a tough matchup, but, one of the more talented backs in all of football right now, despite the fact he's a rookie. Todd Gurley against the Bengals. Obviously, Bengals decent-sized favorite here. We don't know if it's going to be Case Keenum or Nick Foles under center. It doesn't really matter. They're both god-awful, and this is a run-first attack. But the Bengals also know that. But at the same time, opposing defenses have known that for quite some time against Todd Gurley, and he's still found success. So due to his price tag, I think is why you have him in your GPP plays. But, I mean, the guy still has a decent floor and big upside despite the tough matchup.
Yeah, I think you're looking at Cincinnati, and we're it's a team that we're kind of scared away from playing against. I mean, they've allowed 4.5 yards per carry to opposing backs, but have kind of hindered touchdowns and all that stuff. But I mean, looking at this week, I think he's a pretty solid GPP play just because really there's no top option at running back that we're willing to pay up for other than Freeman. And this guy does have a big upside, and if the Rams defense comes to play, you're going to see him still be fed. Yeah. 20 plus times. I think if that is the case, I mean, his ceiling is still through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speaking of a ceiling that should have been through the roof, Doug Martin did all the hard work, only let Jameis Winston steal all his touchdowns. So maybe he feels disrespected. I feel disrespected for him that he didn't get enough goal line looks. But either way, Doug Martin coming off 235 yards last week, now faces a Colts defense that, no offense, not very good at all. And this is still a situation where, Doug Martin getting more and more involved in the passing game as well. Obviously, Charles Sims there also. But this is a game that, Tampa, they're not expected to score a lot of points, but he's still the focal point of the offense, despite the fact that Jameis Winston threw all those touchdown passes. And we might see more people flocking to Winston after that performance than the people who go to Martin. But I'm on the Martin side of this one all day.
Yeah, and I think just because he's a tournament play here, I mean, I love his price. I think he could make for a safe option, but if let's just say the Colts get out to a lead, which is possible against this defense. I mean, Hasselbeck's still capable of burning the secondary with guys like Hilton and Moncrief, and that would kind of limit Martin getting his touches and stuff. I mean, you look at Indy's defense, they just don't scare me, and Martin's upside is tremendous. He's hit 3 times value 30% of the time this season, which is 4th among qualified running backs. So I think if you're looking for a perfect GPP guy, it's still Martin.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Final guy here, if you played this guy, you probably won some money last week. If you played him with some other good plays, you might have been the people winning a ton of money. It was pretty simple. If you had Thomas Rawls last week, you had a chance to win tournaments. If you didn't have him, you didn't have a chance to win tournaments. And obviously, Marshawn Lynch ruled out late. Pete Carroll doing his best troll job, as he does, not giving us the full story. It's irritating by this point, but I'm personally not a Pete Carroll fan anyway. But Thomas Rawls, though, been impressive every time that he's stepped in for Marshawn Lynch. And this week, facing off against Pittsburgh, it's not a great matchup. Steelers have done a solid job on defense after a pretty bad start to the season the first couple weeks. And now all of a sudden they're in the playoff hunt after a fairly slow start. Lots of injuries to them. So Thomas Rawls, a guy who, good thing he's involved in the passing game here because, if the Steelers do load up the box, make things tough, he can get involved. And we saw that long touchdown catch that he had, a lot of it running after the catch last week. So he's a really talented runner and a guy that, has a big ceiling here, even if his floor is not so great.
Yeah, I mean, even though I have him listed as GPP guy, I just think for price considered, he's definitely a cash game option as well. I mean, it's just not the matchup that he saw last week where, San Francisco's ranked 30th in rush defense, and now Pittsburgh, they're the 6th best run defense in the league. And I think just, you're not going to see him hand the ball off and see 30 rushing attempts. You're not going to see, huge plays. I just think he's going to have to get all of his touches and really work for it this week, unlike, facing San Francisco. So, price considered, I still think he's one of the better plays this week. I just do like Yeldon and Buck Allen. They're a little more in cash games.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But certainly we saw the upside here, like you said, with Thomas Rawls. So keep all these guys on your radar here. That'll do it for us for this week. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got lots of other great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.